So if you drive past the emergency shelter of Northern Kentucky here on Scott Street on any cold night, you will see a very long line of people waiting outside our door about an hour before we open at 6 o'clock. And so when it gets to be about 5:30, our staff will go outside and we will say hi to each person out in our line, take their name, and we also check for how people are doing out in our line. It is not uncommon for almost every night for us to run into someone standing in our line who needs more help than we can offer. We have to call the ambulance. It's also a chance for us to gauge how people are getting along well outside, for us to see if somebody needs to come in early now versus waiting until we open at 6 o'clock. When we do open our doors, we let everybody in and everyone is welcomed. They are encouraged to eat, to have a seat, and we also ask them if they have any laundry needs. So we attempt to do an outfit for every single person in shelter each night so that they have clean clothes to wear in the morning. We also have, once a week, we offer nurses who will see them to check blood pressure, to check sugar for diabetes, and for other issues that they might have.
Well, what brought me here was a few years ago, I made some real bad decisions and I became homeless at a pretty old age. I mean, I was in my late 50s, okay? I felt so belittled. I mean, I wasn't, and then my best day at the shelter, every night I walked in here, okay, it was like, I was going home.
We toured several different facilities and heard presentations from several different social service organizations. And the shelter, I remember going home that night and telling my wife, that place spoke to the heart of this class, both individually and collectively, that what we saw being done here, the impact that this shelter was having on the community, particularly obviously the homeless in the community, was profound. And to see how effectively and efficiently they were doing it, I think it spoke to us as professionals, but also, as I said, put a voice in our heart for the good work that was going on here.
Sometimes in the winter when it's really cold and I go to bed and think how warm and safe I am, there's not a time that goes by that I don't think of people who are on the banks of the river or living out in the cold, and it's very sad for me to think of these people who have no place to lay down when they're sick, when they're cold, and it's just such a tremendous need in our community that a lot of people are just not aware of, and I think the more people that we can get to recognize this, then I think we'll have a successful campaign.
The capital campaign that we're embarking on and launching is got three components to it. The first is, and the most significant portion, is to go towards the new building that we'll have to go into. We want to be able to renovate a facility or provide for the lease of a new facility that we're going into. We recognize that there's a growing population that we're serving, and in order to meet this growing population, our staff has to grow. Right now we're at 1 full-time and 4 part-time employees, and we expect those staffing needs will have to grow as the population that uses the emergency shelter will grow as well. And finally, there's a third component, and that's around an endowment for the shelter. An endowment that will sustain us if the donations in any particular year don't meet the need and fulfill the bill. Today, 100% of our operating costs come from donations. Individual donations that make up more than 80% of our income. An endowment will make sure that that continues into the future.
We encourage them to go to a 12-step program to address addictions. We strive to have them open a bank account and to engage with simple banking and learning how to save a certain percentage of their money. These are important life lessons that some of our guests just need to get back into, and for some of our guests it's the first time that they have gotten into some of those things like banking and saving money for housing. So at the emergency shelter, we do have a goal of never seeing someone again. But we always say to someone, you're always welcome back to come back and volunteer at our shelter rather than having to stay here.
There's not really any there's not much help out there from government agencies and what have you, and of course they're all tight on their budgets to begin with. So there's never been a lot of help for these people.
I wanted to do something that helps other people instead of just helping myself.
It's hard being out here on the streets in the winter, summer, and anything. And if it wasn't from the shelter, I don't know where I'd be. I'll be dead or something.
If it hadn't been for the shelter here, I would not have made it. There's no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be sitting here now.
People just generally care of people's welfare. That's why they donate to organizations like this. So people will have a place that they can come to and know that they'll be cared for.